Power is a fragile thing, even for a king, and especially for the king of the gods. After defeating his own father, Cronus, and locking away the Titans, Zeus sat on the throne of Olympus, thinking his rule was absolute. But the biggest threat to a king doesn't usually come from a conquered enemy. It comes from those who sit beside him. It comes from his own family. Imagine this: golden chains binding the queen of the gods to the heavens, her ankles weighed down with anvils forged by the gods themselves. This is Hera, wife of Zeus, hanging between worlds as punishment for the ultimate betrayal. But what could possibly drive the goddess of marriage to lead a rebellion against her own husband? And how did this failed coup reveal a new terrifying side of Zeus? A side that would eventually decide to drown the entire world. The court of Olympus wasn't a happy home. It was a house built on a violent victory, and its foundations were cracking with resentment. Zeus, the triumphant king, had grown arrogant, and his rule started to look a lot like tyranny. Worse, he was shamelessly unfaithful. While Hera was the goddess of marriage, her own was a public joke. Zeus's affairs were legendary, producing countless demigods and heroes, and every single one was a walking, talking insult to his queen. This constant humiliation began to fester. Hera, the proud queen, grew sick of the betrayals and her husband's iron-fisted grip on power. And she wasn't alone. Poseidon, the mighty lord of the seas and Zeus's own brother, resented his younger sibling's top dog status, believing his own power was just as great, if not greater. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, born straight from Zeus's own head, had become tired of his chaotic and impulsive decisions that threatened the stability they had all fought for. So in the shadows of Olympus, Hera started whispering about rebellion. She found allies in Poseidon and Athena. Together, three of the most powerful gods on Olympus made a secret pact. They weren't just going to humble the king of the gods. They were going to overthrow him. Their plan was surprisingly simple, built on the one thing Zeus still gave his wife: access. It was Hera's job to trick her husband into a deep, drugged sleep. One night she did it. As the king of the gods lay helpless, the conspirators made their move. They stole his terrifying thunderbolts, the source of his power, and bound him to his own couch with intricate leather thongs, tying 100 knots to make sure he couldn't break free. For a moment, they had won. The tyrant was trapped, but their victory was short-lived and it crumbled from the inside. With Zeus tied up, the question was obvious: who rules now? Their shaky alliance shattered as personal ambition took over. Hera, as the ringleader, claimed the throne. Poseidon shot back that his raw power made him the obvious choice. Athena argued that only her wisdom could bring real order. And as they fought, their golden opportunity slipped right through their fingers. The commotion didn't go unnoticed. A sea nymph named Thetis saw the civil war about to explode on Olympus, a war that would throw the world into chaos. She knew there was only one being loyal enough and powerful enough to stop it. She raced to find Briareus, one of the Hecatoncheires, the 100-handed, 50-headed giants that Zeus himself had freed from the pits of Tartarus. Briareus answered the call. He stormed into the throne room, and his monstrous appearance alone was enough to silence the bickering gods. He didn't even have to fight them. With 100 hands moving at once, he untied the 100 knots in a single instant, and Zeus was free. Zeus awoke, not to his family begging for forgiveness, but to his wife, his brother, and his daughter standing over him like vultures. The betrayal was total, and his rage was cosmic. He grabbed his thunderbolts, and as divine energy crackled in his hands, the rebels fell to their knees, pleading for a mercy they knew they didn't deserve. Zeus's revenge was swift and strategic, designed to send a message to every god on Olympus. He saved the worst of it for the leader, his wife. He grabbed Hera and with golden chains hung her from the sky itself. To make her agony worse, he chained heavy anvils to her feet, stretching her body between the heavens and the earth. Her cries of pain echoed through the cosmos for days, but no other god dared to help, terrified of facing the same fate. When her son, Hephaestus, the smith god, tried to free his mother, Zeus snatched him by the leg and hurled him from the top of Olympus. He fell for an entire day before crashing onto the island of Lemnos, an act that left him permanently crippled. Zeus did eventually release Hera, but only after she swore a sacred oath to never rebel again. Her pride wasn't broken, but her power to openly challenge him was. Poseidon, a leader of the coup, and Apollo, who had also joined in some versions, were punished too. They were stripped of their divine powers and sentenced to a year of hard labor as mortals. For a wage, they were forced to serve the Trojan king Laomedon, using their godly strength to build the magnificent, impenetrable walls of Troy. Ironically, Athena, another key conspirator, somehow managed to avoid punishment, perhaps because she was always Zeus's favorite daughter. The coup was crushed. The rebels were humiliated. Zeus's throne was more secure than ever, but everything had changed. The old strained family dynamic was gone. In its place was a new order, built on absolute power and pure fear. Zeus had survived his moment of greatest weakness, and he was determined to never let it happen again. His rule was no longer about leadership, it was about total dominance. This new, unforgiving attitude wasn't just for the gods. Having re-established control of the heavens, Zeus turned his judgmental gaze down to the world of mortals, and he was disgusted by what he saw. It was the Bronze Age of man, a time of shocking wickedness where humanity had no respect for the gods. One king, Lycaon, even dared to test if Zeus was truly all-knowing by trying to feed him the flesh of a murdered child. For Zeus, that was the last straw. He saw humanity as a failed project, their noise and corruption staining the earth he commanded. He thought about burning the world with his thunderbolts, but feared the fire might reach Olympus. So he chose a different method of purification, a reset. He decided to wash the world clean with a great flood. Zeus unleashed the deluge. The heavens tore open, and he called on his brother Poseidon to make the oceans and rivers surge over the land. The world drowned. All of humanity was wiped out, their cities and dreams swallowed by the waves, their wickedness erased. But Zeus allowed one tiny spark of hope to survive. The Titan Prometheus, who had created mankind, learned of Zeus's plan and warned his mortal son, Deucalion, a man known for his good heart. Following his father's advice, Deucalion built a large wooden chest and filled it with supplies for himself and his wife, Pyrrha. For 9 days and 9 nights, they floated on the endless water as the world they knew was destroyed. When the rains finally stopped and the waters receded, their ark landed on the peak of Mount Parnassus. They were the only 2 humans left alive. Alone in a silent world, they prayed, and Zeus, seeing their piety, sent his messenger Hermes to grant them one wish. They asked for humanity to be restored. They were led to an ancient oracle who gave them a cryptic riddle. "Throw the bones of your mother over your shoulders." They realized the oracle meant the stones of Mother Earth. As they walked, they picked up stones and tossed them behind their backs. The stones thrown by Deucalion became men, and those thrown by Pyrrha became women. A new, purer race of humanity was born from the bones of the earth, given a second chance under the watchful eye of an unforgiving God. The rebellion on Olympus and the Great Flood are two distinct chapters of Zeus's reign, but they show a king determined to forge an undisputed legacy. The coup exposed his vulnerability, and he answered it by hanging his wife from the sky and enslaving his brother, securing his throne through fear. The wickedness of man offended his new sense of absolute order, so he drowned the world, hitting the reset button on creation itself. These events solidified his power not as a first among equals, but as an absolute monarch of gods and men. A ruler who had stared down betrayal and would never again tolerate a challenge to his throne. The story of the gods is the story of family drama on a cosmic scale. If you want to see more of these epic tales of betrayal, revenge, and power, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into mythology. And let us know in the comments, do you think Hera's rebellion was justified?